move on to new business. The first item is presentation of the initial proposed 2013-2014 school year budget with consideration of reduction and/or addition of staffing positions.
I'm wondering, I appreciate you describing that whole thing. We have one of our staff members here, Justina Schmidt, is here with Dr. Skrivanik, and I'm wondering if maybe we could move that agenda item up so we're not...
So that's the early childhood?
The early childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So she can get home a little early.
Good idea.
Greg has a tendency to be long-winded. She doesn't want everyone to go to sleep, just us.
No, that's a good suggestion. So this is the review and consideration for approval of changes to the early childhood program.
Right. With me is Justina Smith, one of our early childhood teachers. What we're going to be talking about this evening is a way to take a look at adding another dimension to our special education programming. Thanks, Greg. And just kind of back up here a little bit. Early childhood is a program option for students that have identified as having special education impairments or disabilities, working with ages 3 and 4 mostly. One of the things that we're bringing out right now is, just to kind of get a baseline, is that right now we serve our children very similar to what 4K does. 4 days a week, they come into a classroom-based setting, and then one day we do lots of home visits or meet with parents and do trainings like that. As we take a look at some of the more progressive ways that we could serve kids, is we found that there are many, many children that we're working with, ages 3 specifically, and 4, but mostly 3, that the school has become kind of their first setting, their first school setting, and we would like to find ways to do more trainings in the home. And so the document that was embedded for you basically is an outline of something called routines-based intervention, which is a very progressive move by the state, has been pushing, and that a lot of districts are looking at, but very few people are kind of taking that jump forward, where they're proposing, instead of 4 days within the classroom, looking at 3 days in the classroom, giving our experts with our young children an opportunity to work with parents and the caregivers in the home setting, in that natural setting, working with their kids and not training with them, but getting those parents the skills they need in order to work with their child that has a special needs impairment. So, not to steal any more thunder, I'm going to turn it over to the expert. This is Justina Smith from our early childhood program.
All right, so I'm just going to briefly go over some of the things that are on the document that you got. So the first issue that I want to talk about is developing relationships with the parents. And lots of children that we get into our program, this is their first time in the school setting, and it's often the first time that the parents are realizing that their child has a disability, and then they're not typically developing with other peers. Parents often have a poor understanding of their child's disability, and this is their first chance to kind of learn about it. And our current model is more pushing to get the students intervention, and we're not helping the parents at all. And parents nowadays aren't really willing to come into the classroom or come to the teachers to get more help and find out what we're doing in the classrooms. So with this new RBI model, we would be able to have the students for 3 days, but then get out into their daycares or their homes for the other 2 days and give their parents training and their caregivers training. One of the big things with RBI is that we need to service the students where they are for most of their time. We have them for 12 hours a week, and sometimes they're with their daycares for 12 hours a day. So we need to get where they are for most of the time and help train them on what we're doing at school so we can see a bigger change. And the other thing with the RBI is there's a kind of an interview that you do with the family, and you develop more family goals, and you're able to find out what truly the family wants to work on with their child and what their biggest concerns are. So you're able to help out more that way. The second issue I want to talk about is more community involvement. Right now we have very restrictive involvement in the community, and it's very minimal. Lots of my students who are in daycares are not successful at all. They get taken out of daycares, or they are bopped from daycare to daycare. So with this model, we'd be able to get into the daycares and help get them doing some of the things that we are in the classroom, so it's more successful for the students. I've already talked with some of the daycares and the communities involvement, and they're very excited about this possible change. So that's one thing. And then the community groups may be more willing to come to the special ed department when they do have questions on students, instead of waiting till it's quote-unquote too late. So next year, I would like the program to look like the 3 and 2 model. We'd be able to get more involved with the families and the communities, and then be getting students, the other big thing is we'd be getting students into more of an appropriate setting. So, for example, if I have a class of 6 students and they're all nonverbal, bringing a student into my class to learn how to talk isn't really ideal, but putting them into a daycare setting where there's 20 other students who are talking, where that's having better, more role models and more ideal for them. Jen Callis from CISA, she wanted me to provide some information as well. She talked to the statewide preschool options coordinator, and she found out that next year they're pushing to reduce inclusive environments. So they're pushing to stop having only special ed environments, so that we are servicing these students more in their typical environment. And she said by moving to the RBI, we are taking a huge step in this process. So she was very excited to hear about that. Currently, I am working with one family and one community group on my personal time, and I'm kind of doing the RBI model with them, and they both have described to me that how helpful it has been and how excited that they were to get services outside of the classroom and how much it has helped their students. So that's some of the things about RBI. Do you have any questions?
Can you explain again, Dr. Skripanik, or both of you, currently, what does the early childhood program look like again?
Right now, our kids come 4 days a week, and they're either in the afternoon or the morning
So,
or afternoon.
totally at school.
Yes.
And this program, has it been, you said it's relatively new and being established in Wisconsin, so to speak, so have other districts tried it? Has there been success?
This is very new. This is very progressive. Right now, West Salem is the only district that's looking at it, but I cannot tell you any district that's doing it, because they're all in the same spot we are right now. This has been around for a couple of years, but again, being pushed through the state, it is relatively new. And again, the reason we're bringing this for you is not because we want to be the first. The reason we're bringing this for you is because whether this would be an old or new concept is we realize that we're missing something right now. We need to be able to train the caregivers and the parents with children with disabilities, and we need to be able to do it in those natural environments. Bringing them into the school is a good idea. We continue, we still want to do that, thus the 3 days in the model. But again, that extra day is going to be huge. I mean, that's over 30 days that we're going to be able to plug in, work with these caregivers, and give them the skills they need in order to follow up, kind of like homework, to follow up with what we're doing in the school so that we can have these kids, these students, young children with disabilities to increase their skill level even more. Again, bringing a child in and teaching them to speak in the school environment is great, but what about the other 2/3 of the day when they're not with us? That's kind of what we're looking at here. So to say that everyone's doing this, we're the last ones, no, it's quite the opposite. We're going to be one of the first. Kind of scary, but again, it's nice being on that edge.
One other question. Have you approached any of the prior students' parents about how this concept would work, and is that something you think they would have been happy to have had happen for them?
Yeah, I have 2 students whose parents right now, they're past students, but I'm currently still talking to them, and they would have liked to have this help or something like this in the past. Lots of families that we have are currently waiting to be on the autism waiver program, and that will help them get help in the family. But because of our kids, they're going into the waiver program, there's a long waiting list for it. It's about 1 year to 2 years. So they need the help before they can get into this program. And that's where we come in.
Good questions. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a remedial question and then a more specific question. The remedial one, EC is a subset of 4K. It's 4K with disabilities? Okay, there's my remedial question.
Early childhood has been around a lot longer than 4K ever was. Early childhood was designed way back into the 70s to basically serve children that were 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is even 4 or 5-year-old kindergarten. Okay, It's been around a very long time, and it was to serve only children with special needs. We also, it's part of the federal laws of special education, and we work with the agencies called Birth to 3 that work with children 0, 1, 2, well, really till their 3rd birthday. We call it Birth to 3. But again, it's only for students with special needs, so this has nothing to do with 4K. We partner, I mean, we're seamlessly part of 4K, because if I have a 4-year-old child that with special needs that can be in that 4K environment with support, okay, that's where they belong, because that's their natural environment. So when we brought 4K into the district, that gave another avenue for our students with special needs. What we're doing here is we're asking for more without really asking for more. We're asking for other options without adding staff, adding costs, anything. That's what we're basically asking here.
And that's my follow-up question. I'm trying to figure out, are we going, it sounds fantastic. It also seems like an expansion, but we're not expanding actual contact time even, or?
Well, let me back up. The contact time, right now, contact time with early childhood 4K count whether they're in the classroom or they're doing their family visits or their community activities on that 5th day. What we're asking here is basically, instead of a 4-1, which we currently have for early childhood, we're asking for 3 classroom-based days, 2 contact days with caregivers and parents. So we're not asking for an additional staff person. We're not asking for aid time. Not asking for anything other than the ability to have an option where we can get out of the classroom and into those natural environments, whether it's the home, the preschool, the daycare setting, grandma's house, you name it. That's what we're trying to do here. And if we wanted to do this currently with our current model, I really have two choices: no, or I have to get a sub so I can put the expert in the home, and then I have a sub now working with my kids in the classroom. That's unacceptable, because I'm taking away their primary teacher in order to do this. What we're asking here gives us that option without any cost or any burden with anybody.
Will the students come on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays then, and have Tuesday, Thursday to go out?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And will that be a problem for the families having their child stay home one day? But maybe it'll be helpful knowing that they'll have some extra help at home.
It may be, and I'm sorry, you're about to speak.
The families that I have talked to about this possible program have been very accepting of it. I've had no one yet say, no, I need my student to be in that classroom that day.
The way I would answer it is, early childhood is not a daycare setting. They're there for 3 hours.
Right.
They're not even there every day of the week, currently. There isn't an early childhood program around that's there every day of the week. So to say, could this be a burden? It absolutely could be. But on the same token, it hasn't been a burden already, and we're not really changing it that much. So, I mean, again, we're going to go with what we have, our small sample size of parents that would like to do this, and right now they're telling us, no, that this is great, this is not going to be an issue for our families.
I just was concerned if the parents would see that as less time for their child to be in the setting to help them with their disability, or their special
Very good
needs.
question. And again, it's really how you want to, is it me sending the child to a place versus that place really coming into my home and helping me with what I need? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is, again, one of those systems changes. And it's a mindset change for parents, too. I think Justina referred, in the first paragraph, it talks about parents sending their children to early childhood thinking we're going to fix them. We can't. It has to be a team effort, people working together. So getting education to the parents, to the daycare providers is critical, because now we're expanding the knowledge from one person to possibly to a parent, a daycare provider. We're tripling the amount of help that child will get. And I think in the last paragraph it talks about as teachers, again, we can work as hard and as much as we want, but unless we get help from those other adults, we're not going to see the kinds of changes that we need to have happen. So there may be some need to, again, be working hard to educate parents on why this is a better plan than what we've done in the past. And, time will, of course, tell Justina, I'm sure, will be getting plenty of feedback throughout the year on how things are working, and she'll be able to compare how her students are progressing under this model with how their students have performed or progressed in the past. And certainly, we can make tweaks in the program once we see how that all pans out. But these are the kinds of things where I know we're kind of on the leading edge here, and that can be a little bit scary if we don't have any documentation from other schools where this has been done. But I think what we're doing right now has not been as successful as we'd like. We need to try
I
something.
think it makes sense to
Yes,
be able
absolutely.
to go in and see, help them in their own setting that, like you said, 2/3 of the time they're with those.
Exactly, it's like when you go, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask though, if there are parents who really don't want that coming back into the home as frequently as that, are there options then? I mean, would they maintain what you're doing, or how would you address that, do you think? Or through education, you're hoping that they would come around to see the benefits that you're bringing?
I can speak. A lot of the times, actually, it's quite the opposite is occurring. My little baby, my teeny little baby is going to go to a school. I mean, I can't tell you the meetings I've been in the last almost 20 years now where, can't you come to the house? No, I can't. I mean, you got to send them to the school. That's where the people are. Okay? So, I mean, let's think back. My kids were 3. I was in no position of wanting to send them to a school. I remember first I went to preschool, I thought my heart was going to fall off. I mean, it just popped right out of the chest. I just couldn't stand to see the sight of my little one going there. Well, if my child had special needs, that's going to be even more. So how about the experts coming to me? It kind of reminds me like when, I remember when I had to go to physical therapy, I had 10 minutes of physical therapy, yet they gave me a list of things I needed to do every day, 4 times a day, okay, in my natural setting. This is no different, okay? I got better. And the thing is I barely saw the expert. The expert trained me what I needed to do to take care of myself. This is the same thing. Justina's going to work with the parents to help them get better so that they can work with their child. So together we're speaking the same languages and have the same outcomes.
And how many families are there? How many students, I mean?
Early childhood numbers. It changes every day.
Well, right,
So,
but just
Next year,
average.
I have roughly 20 students.
Okay.
yeah, about 15, 25.
So how many visits do you think you'll get in each week if you have 2 days?
Typically, it'd be an hour to 2 hour visit. So based on that, I'd like to get in
Like maybe
5 a day.
4 or 5 a day. And again, it's very doable.
So every couple weeks or so, you'd be...
Depending on the
going to-
services that they would need, you can put them on a weekly or bi-weekly schedule. And have, at different times, have different professionals come in with you, like the OT or the PT or speech, so we can help the parents there. And the other option, if parents don't want us coming into their house, another option is then to have them come into the school. And typically, if you give the parents that option, they say, oh, no, that's all right, you can come home. So.
Yeah, so everyone's worried about them, oh, I gotta clean the house. No, but they're past that. Okay, don't worry about that. Any other questions or concerns?
I can see it being an educational benefit, Paul, and I know you two are fired up on it, and you think you can make it work.
Yes, we do.
I can't see it being anything but a benefit to Toma and the parents that are in need of this. I'm just happy to see you doing it.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve making the changes to the early childhood program to have 3 days for students coming into school and 2 days to be able to do the visits in-home and at daycares.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then to approve the changes to the early childhood program as presented. Any other questions? So Justina is our EC staff.
There's actually a second one.
Okay.
But, again, this was Justina's been working on this a very long time, and Nancy Bouchard is our second early childhood staff. And again, she also mentioned our 4 OT and PTs plus our speech therapists are all involved, plus our school psychologist and myself. I mean, again, she is our point of contact. She was the leading force. We told other people to try, research this idea, work with Jennifer over at C4, work with DPI, look at what other districts were doing, realizing that this is very cutting edge, but looking in the future, this is what's going to be coming. This is, we believe, through this, what the state is telling us, that more districts will be having this discussion, except at least citing Toma. Oh, Toma did this, Toma did that. And Toma's been doing this for years, things like that. So, again, not a bad deal.
Would you like Justina to come back in January, about halfway through the school year, to kind of give a report on how things seem to be going?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be great. So we have, any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and so those changes are approved. Thank you for your work on that and keeping us right at the front of things. Thank you. Sounds like it makes a lot of sense.